A lot of these platforms, they've been holding me back from really going in and exposing what I really want to expose.
That's all.
We've got the scoop and trust. This one's got some heavyweight names involved, so let's dive in. The murder plot, prison politics, and a superstar fighting for his life from behind bars. R. Kelly is facing hell on earth behind those walls, and much of the madness stayed buried, that is, until June 2025. That's when his legal team, headed by attorney Bo Brindley, dropped a bombshell motion in Chicago's federal court that could shake the whole system. The motion didn't just ask for house arrest, it demanded his immediate release, accusing prison officials and the Aryan Brotherhood of plotting to have Kelly taken out permanently.
These are people who seek to kill Mr. Kelly rather than allow the corrupt criminal conduct of those who manufactured his convictions be exposed.
But this wasn't some slick legal stunt or a desperate play to get him out. The filing came with a sworn declaration from someone deep inside the game, a witness with first-hand knowledge of the hit. The man at the center, Michael Glenn Stein, a terminally ill inmate and self-proclaimed shot caller in the Aryan Brotherhood. Stein alleged that 3 Bureau of Prisons officials at FCI Butner in North Carolina offered him freedom if he killed R. Kelly.
Stein, in his declaration, has set forth the reason that was given. The reason is that Mr. Kelly was about to expose some facts that would be extremely inflammatory and damaging to the Bureau of Prisons and the Department of Justice. And because of that, the Bureau of Prisons instructed Michael Glenn Stein to go to Butner and execute R. Kelly. And Mr. Stein made clear and gave us extraordinary detail when we spoke to Mr. Stein. We didn't use this until we actually went down and met with Mr. Stein for hours. And he told us in extraordinary detail that this is not the first instance, that this happens all the time, that the Aryan Brotherhood has been directed to commit murders and beatings at the behest of prison officials for years.
According to Kelly's lawyer, Bo Brindley, claimed Stein was told Kelly had dirt, dangerous, explosive dirt on the Bureau of Prisons and the Doge, and the solution, silence him before he could talk. But here's where things take a darker twist. According to Stein's account, he was offered a chilling deal, carry out the murder, and in return, he'd be quietly moved to another facility with an opening to escape, letting him die on the outside instead of rotting inside. Now here's the kicker. Stein had already escaped BOP custody before and had done time at a DX Florence, the most secure supermax in the country. That makes this wild escape offer all the more believable. But what nobody saw coming, Stein changed his mind. In March 2025, Stein says he arrived at Kelly's unit with deadly orders, but instead of pulling the trigger, he warned Kelly. He allegedly told him that these types of backdoor deals, where prison staff orchestrate gang hits, happen constantly, and that the Aryan Brotherhood had long been used as enforcers by corrupt prison officials. If Stein's telling the truth, we're looking at systemic abuse inside federal prisons, and Kelly's just one piece of the puzzle. And get this, it didn't stop there. Kelly's team claims that by June 2025, a second Aryan Brotherhood member was also recruited to kill both Kelly and Stein.
They have said that if he is to do this, he is a terminal cancer patient, he's going to die in the near future. That's a fact. And they have said that he will be transferred and he'll get the opportunity to walk away. And Michael Glenn Stein has a history of escaping from the Bureau of Prisons. He escaped previously. That's why he spent so long at the ADX Supermax in Florence. And all of a sudden, he was moved to this relatively low security facility at Butner and put near R. Kelly. That's a fact.
According to the filing, even outlines the specific methods discussed for the assassination, everything from poisoning his food in the chow hall to stabbing him inside the unit. And after that emergency motion hit the court, Kelly's situation reportedly took a disturbing turn. He was suddenly thrown into solitary at FCI Butner, and his lawyers say it's not for protection. They allege he's locked up in spider-infested isolation, unable to talk to his family, completely cut off. His legal team says this is punishment for speaking out, not a safety measure. Now Kelly's allegedly terrified to eat anything. He's avoiding all prison food and commissary items, fearing they've been laced. But that murder plot, that's just the tip of a much larger conspiracy iceberg. Kelly's team is saying the entire case against him is poisoned from top to bottom with constitutional violations and shady prosecution moves.
Well, let me say it this way. It's not allegedly having evidence. We do have evidence, and one piece of evidence we've already presented in the form of a signed declaration from Keyshawn Mogadamudi, Robert's former cellmate. And what he describes is having been solicited by prosecutors who are offering him a reduced sentence in exchange for stealing Mr. Kelly's privileged attorney-client correspondence.
According to
Brindley, the corruption goes way deeper. He claims prosecutors recruited Kelly's former cellmate to steal confidential attorney-client documents. That cellmate, Keshan Magatha Moody, signed a declaration saying prison guards helped him pull off the theft and that those stolen materials were copied by a BOP investigator and later used against Kelly in court. If that's true, that's a constitutional nuke and could blow his conviction to pieces. Prosecutors, of course, aren't having it. On June 16, 2025, they hit back hard, dismissing Kelly's allegations as fanciful, ridiculous, and flat-out insulting to his victims. They doubled down, calling Kelly a remorseless predator and arguing that placing him in solitary proves the prison is taking his safety seriously. But in a final move that shows just how desperate things have become, Kelly's legal team has now turned to one man who might actually listen. They've officially asked President Donald Trump to step in and grant a pardon.
We're going to seek every opportunity to, one, make sure that Robert Kelly doesn't get killed, and number two, to see that he is freed based on what we believe to be and will prove to be a corrupt prosecution, the kind of which President Trump has promised to eradicate.
Kelly's
legal team has taken things all the way to the top, literally. They've issued a direct appeal to President Donald Trump, asking for a full pardon. Their argument, Kelly is the target of a corrupt justice system, and Trump, that had his own legal run-ins, just might relate. The move seems calculated, especially since Trump previously commuted the sentence of Larry Hoover, co-founder of the Gangster Disciples. But as of now, no pardon has been granted. And that silence is raising some serious eyebrows because this case might be part of something much bigger. Kelly's former cellmate Ronny Bo is now drawing comparisons to other powerful black men who've been systematically targeted and torn down.
Doing to all blacks in America, they violating out of our human rights. R. Kelly case too, they violating that man human rights. Larry Hoover, like, they violating his human rights. He got another bogus case.
Even with these disturbing murder for hire allegations swirling, Kelly hasn't found much luck in the courtroom. The Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals upheld his conviction and 30-year sentence back on February 12, 2025, shooting down claims of weak evidence, jury bias, and misuse of racketeering laws. But Kelly's lawyer, Jennifer Bonjean, is far from done. She's aiming to take the fight to the U.S. Supreme Court. Problem is, the court already declined to hear his Chicago conviction appeal in October 2024. Still, Kelly hasn't stopped moving creatively, at least. In a March 2025 prison podcast with inmate T of AANDP, Kelly claimed he's written 25 full albums while locked up, but then came a dark twist. Court documents reveal he suffered a medical emergency behind bars, which his team blames on mishandled meds given by prison staff.
So in the emergency filing, they allege that R. Kelly was giving an additional dose of medication by prison staff, and they're alleging that because of that additional medication that he was instructed to take and that he actually took, he suffered a overdose. So they say that R. Kelly woke up allegedly on June 13th and he felt faint. He was dizzy. He started to see black spots. He got up and he fell. He crawled to the door of the cell and he lost consciousness then. At that point, he was placed on a gurney. He was taken by ambulance to a nearby hospital because they tried to take him to the hospital inside of or associated with the facility that he's in, but they couldn't help him.
However,
now both his physical and mental health are allegedly spiraling. Kelly's diabetic and has battled life-threatening issues, including blood clots in his legs, which he says nearly ended his life.
Kelly allegedly has been asking for months to get some medical attention to a swollen leg. R. Kelly's legal team says that once he was taken to the hospital for this overdose situation, R. Kelly brought up the swollen leg, and they allege that doctors there then took a look at the swollen leg and they found blood clots in R. Kelly's right leg, allegedly, in his left leg, in his lungs, allegedly. And R. Kelly's legal team is saying that R. Kelly was then told he should stay 7 days in that hospital for surgery, and then it would be an additional 2 weeks because of whatever care they were going to need to give him. But his legal team alleges that once the prison was contacted, R. Kelly was then removed against his will by guards from the prison and was not allowed to be treated. And they are saying that basically this could kill him because of the blood clots and the care that they are alleging he is not receiving.
And while
But even beyond the health scares, it's the whispers from within the prison walls, especially from one former cellmate, that are flipping this case upside down. His old bunkie is spilling tea that could change everything. We're talking about explosive inside info, industry secrets, and jaw-dropping revelations about what really happens when someone knows too much. According to this former inmate, Kelly's downfall may have been orchestrated by people way higher up than we thought, the story's getting deeper and dirtier, and the source at the center of it all, a man named Ronny Bo.
We was never roommates. We was on the same unit for a period of time, but I was there. I came there in MCC Chicago, June 24th, 2019. And I think he came either in July or August. It was like a month or two, no longer than 3 months after I came.
But here's what
Ronny Bo, real name Ronny Bo Williams, is a former federal prisoner who did serious time with R. Kelly since his release. He's penned a book detailing their conversations and the shocking things he claims Kelly shared. Now let's keep it 100. Some of this stuff is wild, controversial, and flat out unverified, but it still deserves to be heard. Why? Because it shines a light on a prison system and an industry that might be hiding darker truths than we ever imagined. Ronny Bo calls himself an author and the CEO of Grind Mode Inc., but in this story, his role is far more critical. He was locked up with Kelly at Chicago's MCC, and what he says Kelly revealed behind those walls could shake the music world to its core.
In one of your interviews, you said that you asked R. Kelly, or he told you, either one, that it was $1.2 billion, that he found out that his catalog was worth $1.2 billion. And once he started trying to figure out how he can get, the payments for that or whatever, that's when he said things kind of turned up on him.
according to Bo.
And here's where things start getting real spicy. Ronny Bo claims he was the reason Kelly was moved out of protective custody and into general population.
The man catalog worth $1.2 billion. So technically they supposed to announce him as a billionaire before they announced JayZ as a billionaire. And when he realized that, he like, damn, I'm as big as Mike now. Like, and like, believe it or not, he wasn't making no money unless he went on tour and did a show. He had to do shows and go on tour to survive.
According to Bo, he had solid ties with top shot callers from the Gangsta Disciples to the Latin Kings to the Blackstones, and they all agreed that Kelly could safely join General Pop. That kind of protection from major prison players, that speaks volumes. But the real bombshells come from the convos Bo says he had with Kelly. And these aren't your average jailhouse tales. These are allegations of stolen music, billion-dollar catalogs, and conspiracies run by some of the most powerful figures in entertainment.
You know what I'm saying? So you know, with that not happening, of course, because Pac ended up passing away, did R. Kelly go into detail on how him and Jay ended up working together and doing the best of both worlds?
You asked that at the perfect time, because that's kind of where this come from. Like, see, JayZ, he knew that Pac and R. Kelly was supposed to do better.
One of the most jaw-dropping claims. Kelly allegedly discovered that his music catalog was worth $1.2 billion, making him, at that time, technically richer than JayZ. But here's the crazy twist. Even with that billion-dollar catalog, Kelly was broke, forced to tour constantly just to stay afloat.
And those negative emotions that Jay had, jealousy or whatever you want to call it, it up the tour, because, you know, R. Kelly said that basically when they went to Madison Square Garden earlier that day, you know, he was getting random death threats.
According to Bo's,
that revelation raises a major question. Who was really controlling the bag? How does a man with that kind of catalog end up living check to check? According to Ronny Bo's account, things started to unravel fast when Kelly began asking questions about his money, digging into the paper trail and trying to reclaim what was his self. And that's when, according to Bo, the heat really got turned up. But the messiest part of it all, the JayZ connection. Ronny Bo claims there's a deep, long-running beef between Kelly and Harv, and it goes way beyond whatever the public thinks they know.
Like, R. Kelly was eventually blacklisted. I feel like I'm blacklisted. I feel like there's many other artists who probably got way more talent than most of the artists we hear in the industry that is blacklisted.
According to Bo's version of events, the original plan for Best of Both Worlds wasn't JayZ, it was Tupac. That's right, Kelly and Pac were reportedly set to collaborate before Pac was gunned down. After his death, JayZ allegedly stepped into the spot, and Bo says Jay saw it as his shot to rise up and take the place of Pac and Biggie. But the collab, it didn't unfold the way Harv imagined.
Right in the midst of that, for like 3 days in a row, was coming up there protesting on R. Kelly's behalf. So in the feds, they got this rule, like if they protesting around a building, we got to do emergency lockdown.
Bo claims Kelly started receiving threats before the Madison Square Garden performance, and when he finally stepped on stage, he spotted people in the crowd throwing threatening signs. Kelly allegedly believed JayZ orchestrated the threats, so he walked off stage. That's when, according to Bo, Jay's camp responded by pepper spraying him. But hold up, it gets even deeper. Bo says Kelly was convinced JayZ actually funded the surviving R. Kelly doc using his ex, Dream Hampton. As a front, she was the executive producer behind the whole thing.
Bo also mentions that Farmer later claimed in the media that the government had him do that. This raises...
If there's any truth to that, that means one of the most powerful moguls in music bankrolled the very documentary that burned Kelly's legacy to the ground. And JayZ isn't the only target in Bo's allegations. He claims there's a coordinated agenda in the industry to blacklist any artist who doesn't fall in line.
Because where we come from, like whether you was with a gang or not, we live by certain principles and codes. And in that industry, it is a lot of that go on.
Yeah.
Like when you talk about selling your soul and that really go on. You know what I mean? This executive, you got this rich executive in the industry, and he could fuck over your career. He might want to play with your or something. He might want to play with your or something. But where we come from, it's like, what? And that's the type of R. Kelly was. R. Kelly told Quincy Jones, man, because of the God I serve, I can't get down like that, homie.
Bo even shares his own story, how he was blocked from mainstream media. He says when he tried booking an interview with The Breakfast Club, they told him iHeart wouldn't allow it because of the controversy tied to his name. According to Bo, powerful gatekeepers like JayZ have the influence to shut artists out completely. That's the dark reality he's painting, where fame doesn't just come from talent, it comes from knowing who to bow to and who not to cross. Meanwhile, behind bars, Kelly wasn't just dealing with legal attacks, he was dodging real physical danger too. Back in 2020, while locked up at Chicago's MCC, Kelly was ambushed and beat up by an inmate named Jeremiah Shane Farmer, a known Latin Kings member doing life. But Bo says that wasn't just a random prison scuffle. Bo explains that protests outside the prison led by Kelly's supporters had the prison on lockdown for 3 days straight. Inmates couldn't use the phones, couldn't get to privileges, and that frustration built up. They blamed Kelly, but here's the twist. Farmer later came out in the media saying the government told him to do it. That flips the whole narrative. Was it just inmate rage, or was that hit arranged from higher up? What makes Bo's account hard to dismiss is that he's got receipts. He's taken federal agents to court and won. One of his lawsuits against D-Agent Timothy P. Gray even ended in a settlement that gives his voice some weight. And he's not just speaking on Kelly's struggles, he also paints him as a man who stood on principle, refusing to play the industry's dirty game even when it cost him everything. According to Bo, R. Kelly caught heat early on for rejecting advances from major industry power players, including none other than Quincy Jones. Bo claims this refusal didn't just close doors, it created powerful enemies. In an industry where certain favors are allegedly expected, Kelly's resistance may have sealed his fate. The bigger picture that comes out of these cellmate accounts is ugly, a system built not just on talent, but on control. We're talking blackmail, shady contracts, financial traps, and legal takedowns used to silence those who won't play the game. And if even half of these allegations are true, then Kelly's story is just scratching the surface. The real question ain't just about what happened to R. Kelly behind bars. It's about whether he was one of many who got targeted for knowing too much about how this industry really runs. But to understand why Kelly became such a high-value target both inside prison and out, we gotta rewind. Let's go back to where this whole mess started. How did R. Kelly go from global R&B king to inmate? Buckle up, let's keep it all the way real. To truly understand what went down with Kelly and why he ended up doing time, you gotta trace it back to the beginning. See, these allegations, they didn't just come out of nowhere. This drama had been simmering for decades. Back in 1994, when Kelly was 27, he secretly married 15-year-old Aaliyah in a hush-hush ceremony in Chicago. That alone raised red flags, but it gets even worse. They allegedly faked her ID to make her look 18 once her parents found out. They shut it down and got it annulled in '95. Years later, testimony in court claimed Kelly's people dropped $500 to get that fake ID, allegedly because they thought Aaliyah might have been pregnant, but that was just the spark. The firestorm came later. Throughout the late 90s and early 2000s, a string of young women like Tiffany Hawkins and Tracy Sampson stepped forward, accusing Kelly of misconduct with minors, and instead of facing real consequences, Kelly allegedly wrote checks to make the problems disappear. By 2002, the law tried to clamp down. Kelly was slapped with 21 counts of child pornography after a disturbing tape surfaced showing him allegedly abusing a 14-year-old girl. Now, you'd think it was a wrap after that kind of evidence, right? Wrong. In 2008, Kelly walked free, beat all 21 charges. Why? The alleged victim and her family refused to testify, and the jury wasn't completely sure the girl in the video was underage. So Kelly kept moving like he was untouchable, still dropping tracks, still touring, still living large. But behind the scenes, journalists like Jim Derogatis were quietly connecting the dots, building a case that would eventually collapse Kelly's entire empire. Then 2017 hit, and the game changed overnight. BuzzFeed dropped a bombshell article claiming Kelly was running a full-blown sex cult, locking women in his homes, cutting them off from their families, and controlling every move they made. That's when the hashtag #MuteRKelly movement erupted, with fans and activists demanding a total boycott of his music. But the real body blow came in 2019, when Lifetime aired the Surviving R. Kelly documentary. That series flipped everything. It featured damning testimony from multiple women, including Kelly's ex-wife Andrea and accusers like John DePace, detailing physical, sexual, and psychological abuse. That documentary didn't just go viral, it shattered Kelly's career. RCA Records dropped him. Artists like Lady Gaga and Celine Dion pulled their collabs with him off streaming platforms. And within weeks, the legal walls started closing in. In February 2019, Cook County hit Kelly with 10 felony counts of aggravated criminal abuse involving 4 women, 3 of them minors, aged 13 to 16. But that was just the beginning. The state charges were just a warm-up in July 2019. Then the feds came knocking, and they didn't come light. They hit Kelly with a staggering 18 federal charges, including child exploitation, child pornography, trafficking, kidnapping, forced labor, racketeering, and obstruction of justice. He was taken into custody and denied bail. Authorities made it clear they saw him as both a flight risk and a serious threat to the public. The federal charges, absolutely crushing. In September 2021, after a 6-week trial in Brooklyn, a federal jury found Kelly guilty on all 9 counts, 1 for racketeering and 8 violations of the Mon Act. Prosecutors laid it out plain. This wasn't just a singer gone rogue. Kelly was allegedly running a full-blown criminal enterprise for nearly 30 years. His entourage managers, bodyguards, and assistants were accused of helping him lure in and exploit underage girls, boys, and women. 11 victims, including Aaliyah, stood in court and described years of emotional and physical torment, most of it when they were still kids. They said Kelly had twisted rules, calling him daddy, no eye contact with other men, barely allowed to move freely. Break the rules, you'd face violent punishments or be forced into disturbing acts, some of which were caught on camera. Then, on June 29, 2022, Judge Ann Donnelly handed down 30 years in prison, calling his actions sadistic and manipulative. She said he used his stardom to prey on the most vulnerable. In court, 7 survivors confronted him, sharing the pain he caused while Kelly sat emotionless, offering no apology. But that wasn't the end. In September 2022, a Chicago federal jury found Kelly guilty on 6 out of 13 charges, including producing child pornography and coercing minors. This case centered around graphic videos showing Kelly with his 14-year-old goddaughter, identified in court as Jane. Jane herself testified, confirming she was the girl in the footage and detailing years of abuse before she turned 18. By February 2023, Judge Harry Linenweber dropped another hammer: 20 more years. 19 of those would run concurrent with his previous sentence, but 1 extra year was tacked on, bringing Kelly's total sentence to 31 years behind bars now. The man who once sold out arenas and lived like royalty is isolated, fighting to survive in a world of prison cells, federal scrutiny, white supremacist gangs, and whispers of industry sabotage. He's currently held in solitary confinement at FCI Butner Medium 1, with no clear outcome yet on his emergency appeal. A hearing was set for June 20, 2025. But jurisdiction issues between Chicago and North Carolina are slowing everything down. If nothing changes, Kelly won't walk out until December 2045. By then, he'd be 78 years old, if he makes it that far. With reports of declining health and threats to his life, that's a big if. The real question: will the public ever learn what really happened to R. Kelly behind those prison walls? With so many powerful players allegedly invested in keeping him muzzled, and Kelly himself potentially taking secrets to the grave, the full story might never surface. The so-called king of R&B may have fallen, but the ripple effect from that collapse is still shaking things up, from the music industry, boardrooms to the courtroom floors. And trust, it's far from over. This ain't just about R. Kelly anymore. It's about the machine behind the music, the secrets it hides, and what happens when someone knows too much. Like this video. Don't stop now. Click the suggested videos on your screen for more deep dives just like this one.